Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Is the date and or time at the top right corner of your Mac dimmed or gray? Let me show you why. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now, one of the most common questions asked online by Mac users is why is the date and time at the top right corner of the screen dimmed or gray? There's actually a good reason for this. It's not a bug. So here you can see the date and time at the top right hand corner of my screen look perfectly normal. But if you don't see it like that and instead see it like this, you may be wondering why. The date and time are dimmed or grayed here, and they're actually kind of hard to read. The question is what causes this, and is there a way to turn it off so the date and time is always there as regular black text? Now you may think the way to turn this off is to go into System Preferences and go to the section that has to do with the date and time. And that's in Dock and Menu Bar. And then if you scroll down you'll find Clock. And this is where you control exactly what appears here. You could have the day of the week shown. You can have the date shown or not, AM, PM, all of that. This is where you customize what's in the menu bar there for date and time. But there's no mention here of it ever being grayed or dimmed. That's because what actually is being indicated here when it's gray or dimmed is that either Do Not Disturb or a focus mode is turned on. So let's go into System Preferences and then Notifications and Focus and then to Focus. Now previous to macOS Monterey there was only one focus mode. It was called Do Not Disturb. That's all you had. Either Do Not Disturb was on or off. And if Do Not Disturb was turned on, then the date and time here were dimmed. If it was off, then they were black. So you had an indicator on the screen telling you whether or not you were using Do Not Disturb. Now you can have multiple Do Not Disturb modes. You've got the default and you can add your own. So I've got gaming, an evening mode, coding mode right here. And whenever any of these are turned on, this is gray. The easy way to turn them on or off is to actually go into Control Center here, go to Do Not Disturb, and this is where you can select one, or if one's already selected you could turn it off. You can see I've turned it off and now it's black. If I select one of these other modes like coding, you can see it's gray. However, there are a lot of other ways to turn Do Not Disturb or a focus mode on and off. Some of them you may not even realize you're using. For instance, you can hold the Option key down and click on the date and time, and that will turn on Do Not Disturb or turn it off. So Option click again will turn it off, and now you can see this is black text there. It's easy to do that accidentally. Also, if you look at these modes here, you can see there are different ways to trigger these. For instance, coding will go on when Xcode is launched. So maybe you have a mode that's been set to go on when you launch an app. Evening here is set to go on at a certain time. Gaming is set to go on whenever you connect a wireless controller. So there are various other ways to have these turned on automatically. And you may have even set one to work on your iPhone and not realize that with iCloud it's going to sync across all your devices. And if Do Not Disturb is on for your iPhone, it's going to be on for your Mac as well. So it's really easy to get Do Not Disturb or one of the focus modes on and have this gray. If it's not your intention to have one of these focus modes turned on, now you know how you can easily turn it off using Control Center and then get your date and time back to normal. However, if you want to use Do Not Disturb or one of the focus modes but don't want the date and time to be dimmed, there is a way to change that. The menu bar wants to have at least one way to indicate to you that Do Not Disturb or focus mode is turned on. So give it another way. If you go into Dock and Menu Bar and you look here on the left, there's Focus. And here you can see I've got Show in Menu Bar turned off. Let me turn it on. Now you can see this little crescent moon here that's gray here in the menu bar. This indicates that focus modes are turned off. That's why it's gray. It's kind of the opposite to date and time. When this is gray, that means focus modes are turned off. Now if I were to click here, you could see I have the same controls that I have here in Control Center under Focus. It's exactly the same. I just have easier access to them when they're here and this indicator. So if I go here and I turn one on, now notice that instead of gray it's black and the date and time are not affected. The menu bar is satisfied that it can indicate the focus mode with this icon and doesn't change the date and time. If I go in here and I switch to something like gaming, notice how the icon changes to match the icon I've chosen in System Preferences for this mode. So I see a little rocket ship there. It's black, so it's on. The date and time are not affected. If I were to turn gaming off, you could see I go back to the gray crescent moon there. So all you need to do is have this in the menu bar and your date and time will no longer be the indicator for a focus mode being on. You could also add the indicator using just the control center here. Go to focus, but instead of clicking, just click and drag. And you could drag into position here and do it without ever going to System Preferences. And if you ever want to get rid of it, hold the Command key down and drag down till you see the X and release. So if you're using macOS Monterey, you have this ability to turn off the date and time indicator for focus mode by simply adding focus mode as an icon in the menu bar. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.